Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Let's have a look at how we can get a basic XGrid set up on a new level. So the first thing we're going to want to do is navigate to our XGrid folder, and we'll open up the Levels folder, and we'll select XGrid Setup Tutorial Level. This is basically just a blank level, the sort that you would get if you were to ask Unreal to make a new level for you. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to want to grab a grid from the grid folder. We're just going to drag that right out here. It looks a little bit small on this platform down here, so let's go ahead and make the grid a little bit bigger. You can do that by going to Details and scrolling to the grid primitives. Let's go ahead and make this grid a 10 by 10 grid. There we go. Maybe we want to move it so that it's a little bit more centralized. Excellent. The next thing we're going to want to do is go back to the XGrid main folder and get a game manager. You can put the game manager anywhere you would like in the level. And now what we'll do is we'll make it so that these two actors have a reference of each other that they can access. And we'll do that by simply selecting either the game manager or the grid. Under these default values, we can click to show the game manager and provide it with the reference to the grid that's in our level. And we'll do the same thing with the grid. There should be a game manager under default, and we'll assign that to the one that's in the level as well. Before we move on, we have to do one more important thing. We want to make sure that we have the XGrid game mode selected in our game mode override. So let's go ahead and save our progress. And what we'll need to do now is just spawn a couple units onto the grid so that the game can be played. So let's go ahead and open up the level blueprint. We're going to need two variables here. The first one is going to be a grid, and the second one is going to be a game manager. So go ahead and select that first variable, the grid variable, and let's go ahead and search for our grid actor. And we'll put it right here. We'll compile as well. So we can see we can now set a default value, and we'll go ahead and, just like we did in the overview, we can select the grid actor that we have in our level as the default value for our grid variable in our level blueprint. And next we'll do the same thing with the game manager. Type in game manager, get a reference to it, compile, and we'll select the one that's in our level for the default value. Now we have to add a couple of characters that we want to spawn. So let's go ahead and grab our grid variable. We'll click get grid. And let's spawn a player unit first. So we're just going to drag the pin out. And in this little menu here, we'll say spawn player unit. We'll connect that to begin play. And we want to make sure that these two, both the class and the enumeration name are the same. So we'll go ahead and select sharp character. And this will spawn this character unit sharp at coordinate 0, 0 in our grid. Similarly, we're going to want to, you can either copy and paste or grab the variable again here. And we'll spawn an enemy unit. We'll connect that. And just like before, we're going to go ahead and select the enemy that we want to spawn. Let's spawn a mannequin. And let's have them spawn on the other side of the grid, so probably 9, 9. You have them at opposing ends of the grid. Don't worry too much about this other stuff like targeting priority and AI strategy. We'll go over that in a later video. We're just trying to get the basics set up here. So let's go ahead and compile, maybe save, and last thing we're going to want to do is grab our game manager. And we're going to say last unit spawned. We'll call this event. This is basically saying, hey, I've spawned all the units that I want to. Let's get the game going. Alright, that looks good. Let's go ahead and compile and save. And we'll go back to our overview. Now the last thing that we're going to want to do is add a player start actor. And XGrid is a little particular about where you put it, so let me try and be clear about where we're going to be putting it and where it's going to be facing. We can pull it up right over here, and what we're going to want to do is actually rotate it so that it faces the grid. So we'll go ahead and rotate it -90, and then on the x-axis we're actually going to want it to look down, such that if you were to trace a line on this blue line, it should intersect with one of the cells on the grid. So let's go ahead and raise this up a little bit maybe, so that we can get a nice bird's eye view, and maybe angle it down just a little bit more. Maybe try and center it a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and hit play. And as we can see, we have a very basic setup. We have our grid. Our little scroller is scrolling over all the different cells. And if we are hovering over our units, we can see where they can move. So let's just test this to make sure. We'll just make a move. Pass a couple turns between the player and the AI. Let's see what we can do. How about we use a bomb? Alright. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. In the next one, we'll go ahead and see how we can restrict access to certain cells, give terrain advantages to certain cells, and transform the cells so that they can conform to slopes and different heights. That's all for this video. See you guys next time.